Alright guys, I figured for this video here today, I kind of do something a little bit different than I usually do. I figure I'd kind of cover like a little bit of a how-to, and what we're going to do is I got the Twister Jeep J10 here, finishing up the final details on this for the Ultimate Scale Truck Expo. And as you can see, I've got the brush guard here. This is accurate to the one that was in the movie. But what I need to do is I need to add the KC lights that the truck had on the front bumper here in the movie. So what we're going to do is I got some old TLT mounts here. These things are great for any number of applications, links, all kinds of stuff. But they also braze well. So I'm going to cut these up a little bit, and we're actually going to braze this little mount here right onto the bumper. So for today's video, rather than doing like a rig review, we're kind of do a little bit of a how-to, and I'll show you guys what stuff you need to be successful at brazing, the tips that I use, and how I do it, and hopefully that'll help you with your guys' rigs in the future. So for starters, you need a MAPP torch. You're gonna need flux. I prefer to use the Harris Safety Silv 56. Wire brush comes in handy. You want to make sure that you got a good clean prep surface, and this bumper's been sitting a while, so we're going to wire brush this down to make sure that we got good adhesion. And yeah, so I'm going to get the bumper off, and going to get the mounts trimmed up, and we'll go from there. All right. Alright, so we got the bumper off here. We're going to take our little TLT mounts here, Dremel, cut-off tool, and we're going to get this cut into shape, and then we'll get it brazed up to the bumper. Something I'm not doing here that I probably should be doing, safety glasses. I don't want to see anyone get hurt or anything like that. I usually have my regular glasses on, but I left them in the house. But anytime you're working cut metal, you should really have a pair of safety glasses on or something like that. But we're just going to send it for right now. Also remember, hot metal looks just the same as cold metal in a lot of instances, so I just cut that off. Don't want to grab it right away. Probably end up burning yourself, so just be aware of that, especially once you start working with brazing and the torch and stuff. Be mindful of what's hot, what's cold. Alright, so got our cut here. Alright, we're just going to trim this little ear off. Got a little some leftover metal on there. We'll file that down then. We're just going to cut across on a match this 45 on the other side, and then we'll be good to go. Alright, so now we've got our little tab here, and that little tab, be careful, this sucker's going to be hot. That little tab is actually just going to sit right on top of here like this. Alright, and then we're going to braze in here. Alright, and that's going to be right on there like that. And that'll give us what we need to do to get these lights on here. So, got one. You need to do one more cut on this other one, or you can use the back side, whatever you want to do, and then we'll be good to go. Alright, so once you got both your pieces trimmed, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and with the file, we just want to knock down these sharp, rough edges here. So we're just going to clamp this back in the vise, run over it with the file quick, or with like a sanding drum on the Dremel tool, and then we'll be good to go. Alright, so once you got your piece cleaned up, you start to figure out exactly where your placement's going to be. What I'm going to do is to keep things as symmetrical as possible, is I'm actually just going to basically put this thing right up to the edge here. This way then I know that it's pretty much even on both sides. I did a pretty good job keeping the bumper symmetrical, so that'll make things easy, and you know, the lights will be spaced apart the way they're supposed to be in an even manner. So next thing we want to do is, this bumper's been sitting for a while. You can see it's got some like rust and some other buildup. Probably honestly didn't even clean it that good from the last time I worked on it. I can still see there's like some hardened flux left over and stuff. So we want to get this area cleaned up where we're going to be brazing it, and this way then it'll not only make our life easier, but it'll be strong if need be too. Alright, now as you can see, this metal is all nice and clean. There's no rust or other contaminants on there. So now we go to braze our joint up here. We'll have a nice clean working surface. The flux will be able to do its job, and we'll be good to go. Probably the hardest part of all this is going to be is getting this held down, getting this held in place. You know, especially if you don't have like a third hand tool or, you know, some other clamping devices. Sometimes it can be difficult to hold this where you need it to be while you're working, trying to get this to be brazed on. But I'll show you how I do it. I'll give you a couple tips, and hopefully it'll make life easier for you guys as well. So as you can see here on the bench, I have an old piece of metal. I don't know where it came from. Somewhere, I think from my stepdad's firehouse. And this is what I use on my workbench to keep the bench from going on fire, so to speak. There's various ways to clamp things down. Some guys use the magnets and stuff. I wish I had a set of those. I don't. So I usually just move it to the edge. I get a pair of vice grips, and I just loosely lock it down. You don't want to like crush it because you don't want to damage your part that you're working on. And yeah, so now we're going to get this lined up where it needs to be. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use probably like a third hand tool to kind of hold that in place. But you could use like little baby clamps. Sometimes locking forceps come into place. You can kind of like lock the part down, you know, where you need it to be, like this. You know, secure this down somehow or whatever, and you know, use it to hold your part. So this way then you can work with the torch and your brazing wire. Alright, so we're inside. I grabbed my third hand. These are great tools to have. It makes it easy for doing regular soldering work, but definitely helps with doing the brazing type of work as well. So now the key to this is your clean surface and your flux. Okay, without the flux, the stuff's not going to flow. The brazing wire will not flow where there is not flux. The flux is what chemically cleans the surface and allows the adhesion for the brazing wire. So you need to glob this on, but what I like to do is you grab something, you can even use like the end of your tool, and you want to kind of like paint this stuff on the part. Okay, like so. Alright, and then you're going to want to put it on where you're also brazing to. Something that I've found in recent years that seems to help is that if you heat the part a little bit, it helps melts. It kind of like melts this stuff a little bit. It kind of melts it into place where you need it to be. So sometimes that's helpful too. Because if you leave this stuff like in your garage or whatever, it'll tend to like get kind of hard. I had it in the house, so really shouldn't be too much of an issue here. But yeah, just kind of put this on where you want your brazing wire to flow. Okay. And then we're going to take our third hand here. We're going to put our part into there, and we're going to maneuver this into place where we need it to be. So I'm going to bring this closer. Oops. now you guys can kind of see, got the part lined up where it needs to be. And then what we're going to do is you can kind of check, make sure that you're level. So I got to actually raise it up a little bit because the tab's facing down a teeny bit. But yeah, third hand makes a big difference in how this all, you know, assisting you in holding it. So yeah, we'll get this lined up, and then we'll get the brazing wire flowing. All right, so once you have your part lined up, which we do now, get your torch. All right, brazing wire. The key to all of this is to remember, you don't want to heat this. You want to heat the part, and you want this to flow into it. It's just like soldering regular wires together. It's something that I often see people struggle with. They're trying hard to get this to melt, but you really want this to be hot enough so that when you put your wire into it, it melts it and it flows it that way. Obviously, you're going to have the torch running, and it's going to aid in that process, but you don't want to like stick the torch directly into the wire, because the wire is going to melt, and this is not going to be hot enough for it to flow into here properly. So here it goes. Alright, so when I started heating it, the solder, the brazing wire, melted very quickly to the actual bracket that I made. That's obviously a lot thinner than this 1/8 inch solid here. So just to be safe, I applied another little round of flux to the actual metal part of the bumper, the 1/8 inch solid steel there, and then I just kind of drafted the heat more towards the solid rubber part, the solid steel part there, the 1/8 inch steel on the bumper. And eventually, as that got to the proper temperature, the solder started to flow back off of the mounting tab and into the seam of the between the bumper and the bracket itself. It's been actually probably a year since I've done any brazing. Like anything else, it takes practice. I've been doing it for some time. I'm by no means a master of it, but the more you do it, the better you get at it. And really, at the end of the day, you really just want to make sure that you're getting a good, a solid joint. So I'll show you guys what it looks like here. All right, and you can see that flowed. You can see that flowed into the crevice there, okay, like into the seam there, everything. Don't worry if it gets a little globbed up or anything like that. That'll sometimes happen. You could always go back and with a sanding drum, just sand it down a little bit or something like that. But as long as you have a good basis across it, also too, sometimes the flux will tend to dry clear, and you'll actually have like a buildup of flux. That's okay. Once you're all said and done, you'll wire brush that down. And then what I like to do is I take it in the house and I put on like those big heavy duty yellow gloves, and I'll actually I'll scrub this thing with like a Brillo pad under like really burning hot water, and that'll get all the excess flux and crap off, and that you'll be ready then for your prime and your paint then. So we got one tab done. I'm gonna get this other tab cleaned up, and we'll get that one brazed on, and then yeah, we'll be good to go. Alright, so I'm going to try to get you guys a little bit closer up in person with this one so I can show you guys what's going on here. So what I did was, got my bumper clamped down, I flopped it around here on the bench, and I lined up my tab where it needed to be. Just to make things a little bit easier because it's pretty cold in this garage, is I heated up the metal a little bit, just real quick with the torch, and then I was able to melt my flux in, which actually allowed it to flow a lot better. So everything's in place right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our torch, and again, when you're working with stuff like this, it could be difficult because this tab is going to heat up a lot faster than this 1/8 inch rod is going to heat up. Okay, so really the mistake I kind of made before was, and showing you guys, is I was heating more of the tab here than really heating from the back side of this bar here. So I'm going to try to focus my heat more towards the solid rod, because that's going to take longer to heat up than the tab is, and hopefully it'll flow a lot easier this time and it'll look a lot better for the purpose of this video, and you guys will have a better understanding of how that works. So let's give it a try. That went a lot smoother. You can see how nice it filled in the seam there, and we got good coverage on the mount and on our 1/8 inch steel there. So we're gonna have good adhesion. Not that I plan on running this into any scale bridges like in the movie, but for the sake of strength and stuff, obviously if this thing takes a bonk, we don't want our our tabs busting off the bumper. So that looks pretty damn good now. Just bring you guys up close and personal with that, and you can see that looks like it flowed really good. You can see this one here, you got good coverage in there. So yeah, that's it, guys. All right, so that's kind of your first it's a little tutorial there on brazing. Again, the biggest thing is you want to keep your surfaces clean. So wire brush everything down. Flux paste, okay, I got that from off Amazon or eBay or someplace like that. You type in brazing flux, you can get that stuff from pretty much everywhere. Same thing with the Harris Safety Silv. They sell it like in troy ounces. So there's that. Some basic hand tools. Cut off wheel for the Dremel, or a hacksaw or something like that, and surface to work on, and so that you don't set things on fire. And yeah, you guys will be pretty much good to go. All right, thanks, guys. All right, so before I throw some paint on this, I just wanted you guys to see up and close the joints here. After I took it into the house, got some really hot water on there, and like a Scotch-Brite pad, like a Brillo pad type thing. I was able to get that cleaned up really nice. The joints came out good. You can even see from the underside that the brazing wire flowed nicely. So these things aren't going anywhere. This is going to be real solid, and it's going to look pretty good on here with those light buckets. So stay tuned for that, and have a good rest of your day, guys. Thanks.